Good evening, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for joining us for the general session of the 67th Annual TCCTA State Convention. We are so excited to be back in San Antonio. We hope everyone has a really good time while you're here, and we hope you learn a lot while we're here together this weekend. I want to say some thank yous and recognize some very important people. First, I want to recognize the TCCTA campus representatives who help spread the good word about all the important things our organization does on behalf of educators at two-year colleges across the state. If you are a campus representative, please stand up. We thank you for all your hard work for TCCTA. By January 20th of this year, 22 colleges out of 83 across the state had already exceeded last year's end-of-year membership totals. Thank you, especially to the college representatives at those colleges. And one campus representative, Luella Tate at Austin Community College Round Rock, increased membership there, exceeding the all-time record membership at her campus. Pretty good. Luella is our grand prize winner this year, with its highest percentage increase in membership at her school. She will be honored with a $500 donation made in her name to the Student Scholarship Fund at ACC. Thanks to all of you, campus reps, for your continuing support. We'll be sending letters of thanks to the presidents of these colleges, expressing our gratitude for your hard work. I also want to recognize and thank all of the past presidents of TCCTA. If you have served as president of TCCTA in the past, would you please stand? Thank you for your service to TCCTA. I am especially grateful to all of you who served as chairs of TCCTA committees this year. Would you please stand and remain standing if you are a committee chair? And if you are currently serving on a committee, would you also please stand? And those of you who served as convention section chairs and helped put together the programs for this year's convention, would you also please stand? TCCTA could not function as it does without all of you. Thank you for your commitment to your profession and for your service to our organization. Once more, help me thank all of these people who support TCCTA. I also want to thank the outstanding colleagues with whom I serve on the executive committee. Would the current officers please stand? I want to thank all of you very much. It's been an honor and a privilege and a joy to serve with you on the executive committee for these past several years. I appreciate your leadership, your commitment to the organization. I also want to express appreciation to McLennan Community College for supporting me during the years that I've served as an officer, and particularly this year as I've served as president. I realize that it's an expense and an inconvenience to the President's College, but every person in this room knows how important the work of TCCTA is to our profession. When colleges support faculty who serve in TCCTA, they support all of their faculty. In fact, they support faculty all across the state, and indeed the entire community college system of Texas. So thank you to my college for supporting me. I especially want to recognize the president of McLennan Community College and the chair-elect of the Texas Association of Community Colleges, Dr. Johnette McCown. Would you please stand, Dr. McCown? I don't believe he's here, but I do want to say a special word of appreciation to Vice President Instruction, Dr. Donald Balmos, and to Dr. Fred Hills, Dean of Arts and Sciences at McLennan. Would you please stand? Thank you. And I certainly would be remiss if I didn't thank the McLennan Faculty Jazz Ensemble for the wonderful music they provided for us. Thank you. In fact, would all of my colleagues from McLennan please stand? What a pleasure it is to work with all of you. I want to thank you for coming tonight, for supporting me this year, and for being my colleagues and my friends. Thank you. Please indulge me in just one more personal note. I want to introduce and say thank you to my wonderful family. My son, John, his wife, Angela, and my pride and joy, my two granddaughters, Emma and Lily. Would y'all stand up? Thank you, and I know other grandparents out there will understand. And, and I also, of course, want to thank my husband, Philip. He has taught at Hill College for 39 years and has been a member of TCCTA for that long. I wouldn't have run for office in TCCTA without his encouragement, and I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have made it through this year without his support. So thank you very much. Love you all. Finally, I want to recognize the people who work in our state office. As any of you have served TCCTA in any capacity know, the sustained commitment of our staff members makes TCCTA the strong and effective organization that it is. Richard and Carol, Scott, Marcos, Daisy, would all of you please stand? We are honored to have with us the mayor of San Antonio, Julian Castro. Throughout his tenure, Mayor Castro has focused on attracting well-paying jobs in 21st century industries, positioning San Antonio to be a leader in the new energy economy, and raising educational attainment across the spectrum. Under his leadership, the city established Cafe College, a one-stop center offering high-quality guidance on college admissions, financial aid, and standardized test preparation to any student in the San Antonio area. Since opening in 2010, Cafe College has served more than 25,000 area students. Mayor Castro earned his undergraduate degree from Stanford University with honors and distinction in 1996 and a Juris Doctorate from Harvard Law School in 2000. Please help me welcome Mayor Castro.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Well, Carol, I want to begin by thanking you for that introduction and most importantly for bringing so many great folks to San Antonio. Bienvenidos a San Antonio. Welcome to San Antonio. I also want to thank Richard and the entire staff and want to recognize a couple of our fellow San Antonians from the Alamo Colleges, Chancellor Bruce Leslie, who is here, I know, as well as some of the other Alamo Colleges folks. Raise your hand if you're in the house. Thank you for being here. I want to begin as well with an apology. This is not San Antonio style weather, but all of us are from Texas, so you know that this could change like that. Tomorrow morning it might be 70 degrees, and let's hope that it is. It's my pleasure to join y'all this evening for several reasons, but first and foremost, because of the importance of the work that you do. I'm the son of a father who taught for 31 years, mostly high school, and the husband of a wife who has been teaching for the last 12 years in elementary school, and someone who once tried his hand at teaching. In between college and law school, I came back home, and on the day that I turned 22 years old, the principal at my old high school asked me to be a permanent sub. You know, one of those substitute teachers that has neither the opportunity to run out of the classroom after just one day, nor the training or expertise to actually teach. A permanent sub. So I was 22 years old, and I looked like I belonged in the classroom myself. I was surprised I didn't get asked for a hall pass. And on the third day that I was teaching, I turned around to write something on the blackboard. We still wrote on blackboards in 1996. And some kid threw a paper ball at me. It hit me in the back of the head. And I honestly didn't know whether to turn around and try and figure out who had done that and get after him, or pretend like it never happened and save my dignity and keep going, which is, I think, what I tried to do. But it truly taught me that at any level, teaching is truly a craft. It's something that requires a tremendous amount of knowledge, but also of patience and determination and stamina. Every afternoon, I felt like I had to take a nap at 4 o'clock. I bet you guys have felt that yourselves. And so, first and foremost, I want to thank you for dedicating your careers, your livelihood, to imparting knowledge to our young people. And in your line of work at community college, really people of all ages. There has never been a time throughout human history when knowledge was more important than it is today. I'm convinced that our world is changing at a faster rate than it ever has in human history. And you can see that everywhere. I have a 4-year-old daughter, Karina, and I'm amazed to watch her move the screen on the iPad a lot better than Erica and I can. The other day, we had to stop her. She was going to buy a game app for $69.99, but we caught her. We are also, for the first time in this nation's history, facing competition on a global scale from nations who are creating opportunities and also imparting the knowledge on generations of young people with the ambition, the intelligence, the talent to manipulate the technologies that will define quality of life and economic success in this 21st century. And so the work that you do to ensure that brain power, which is the new currency of success in the 21st century global economy, is cultivated throughout the state of Texas and the United States, the importance of that work simply cannot be understated. Here in San Antonio, 4 years ago, the residents of our city came together to forge a vision about the next decade in our city. We came together on Saturday, September 25th, 2010, to dream about what San Antonio could be on Friday, September 25th, 2020. And of all of the issues that were touched on, and there were 11 different issues, from economic development to downtown revitalization to health and fitness to environmental stewardship, there was one issue that got more passion and more support for doing something about it than any other, and that was the issue of education. The vision that more than 5,000 residents forged for education was that San Antonio would engineer the greatest turnaround in educational achievement that any big city has seen in a decade. And since that time, we've gotten to work. In November of 2012, the voters of San Antonio did something that they had never done before. They decided to boost the sales tax by 1/8 of a cent. That is, they decided to actually tax themselves more to pay for a significant expansion of high-quality, full-day pre-K so that San Antonio has the best prepared, most well-educated 4-year-olds throughout the state of Texas. We also have worked with organizations like Big Brothers Big Sisters to enhance mentoring in our community, to try and especially bridge that time in the middle school years that are kind of this no man's land between the days when a young person is that bright-eyed, bushy-tailed boy or girl as an elementary school student that raises their hand when you ask them what they want to be and tells you they want to be an astronaut or they want to be a teacher or a lawyer, and the 9th grader who looks at you dimly and doesn't want to look at you, doesn't want to raise their hand, and oftentimes is making a decision about staying in school or dropping out. And we also, as was mentioned, implemented something called Cafe College, a one-stop center where anybody, whether they're in public school or private school or they're homeschooled, no matter how much money their family makes or doesn't make, can get one-on-one expert advice on admissions and financial aid so that they can better learn how to get into college and how to afford it. And we did that because we found that the ratio of students to counselors in our high schools was 420 students to one counselor. And very significantly, we have been led in many efforts as well by our Alamo community colleges. Our community colleges has led an effort to connect the needs of our employers with the skills of our workforce, ensuring that people of all ages have the opportunity to go back to college and get the skills they need. They forge great relationships with companies like Toyota and Boeing and Rackspace to produce the human capital that drives our local economy. And for the many, many thousands and thousands of young people graduating from our high schools, our Alamo community colleges are the prime spot for higher education in San Antonio, and one that we are very proud of. I am particularly pleased to see the focus of the organization on college completion. I think all of us know that it's not enough to just get into college. It's also important that our young people, that our college students finish college, that they actually get that degree, that credential, that knowledge, so that they can go on and pursue their career or pursue more higher education. It's important for all of us to continue to work hard to support their efforts, to innovate, to exchange ideas, to understand what the latest and greatest thinking is across the state, the nation, and the world. If we can do that, I know that in this state, we can continue to ensure that Texas thrives, that it prospers, that it truly is a shining star in the 21st century global economy. We can show that you can be pro-business and also pro-education in this state. And so, I hope that y'all have a wonderful time over these next couple of days. I hope that it warms up. But even if it doesn't, y'all are on the Riverwalk. Please have some margaritas, have a good time, Remember that there are no rails on the Riverwalk, so be careful. Y bienvenidos a San Antonio. We're glad to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Castro. We are honored to have you here with us tonight. Beginning in 2002, TCCTA established the Burnside Scholar Award, which is presented to a deserving student at the college of the current TCCTA president. As the 2013-14 president, I am very pleased to announce this year's Burnside Scholar is Braley Michelle Sembera. Braley graduated from West High School in 2013 with a 25.62 grade average. Her class finished their senior year in a neighboring town's facilities following the devastating explosion in West that I'm sure you all heard about last April. While in high school, Braley was a member of the Student Council, the Junior Historians, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. She worked on the yearbook staff. She participated in PALS, which is a mentoring program in which high school students mentor elementary school students. At McLennan, she has a 4.0 GPA after her first semester. And she's a member of our First Generation College Student Initiative. She plans to major in education through McLennan's University Center and wants to become an elementary level teacher. Braley will receive a $1,000 award for the next academic year to help support her educational endeavors. I'm very proud of Braley for her academic achievements, and I'm very proud of TCCTA for its continuing efforts to support students in this very direct and meaningful way. Please help me congratulate Braley. I would now like to call on Richard Moore. Richard, I'm sure you all know, has been on the staff of TCCTA for 22 years and has been the executive director for the past 12 years. Richard now has a couple of special presentations he would like to make.
Thank you, Carol. I'd like to take just a moment to recognize two people who've made an important difference in our work. Scott Nelson and Carol Fricke have meant so much to me personally as friends and colleagues, and they've also meant a lot. Scott, please stay seated. And they've also meant a lot to the work of TCCTA. Scott, Marcos, do you have a newer picture than that, Marcos? Something? No, that's like from the 1800s. Do you have anything? No. That's. Do you have anything else? Okay. Sorry, Scott. I don't know how that happened. Scott's a huge Simpsons fan, so. Those of you who have been around TCCTA for a while remember that Scott was a member of TCCTA, then t.c.c.t.a., serving as chair of the legislative committee and an officer, and as president the year we changed our name to TCCTA back in 1994-95. And during those years, he provided tremendous leadership to the organization. He's smart, insightful, he's got a great sense of humor, he knows how to get to the heart of complex issues, and he has a wonderful passion for both teaching and for policy. If you read the TCCTA blog, and I hope all of you do, you know that he has an eye for the things that matter to teachers, and he appreciates both the absurdity and the earnest beauty of what we're all trying to accomplish as educators. In addition to his role as chief blogger for TCCTA, which is a title I'm just a little jealous of, Scott has put together the TCCTA Messenger and helped coordinate our legislative communications and overseen the bill tracking for the organization. so that during those frantic times in a legislative session when everything is happening quickly and it's not always clear what the latest developments mean, Scott has been able to explain things in ways that make sense to our members. It is a valuable gift, and Scott, I want to thank you for all that you've done and let you know that I respect and admire you for it. As of this April, Scott has decided to step back from some of those duties. Thankfully, he will continue writing the blog for us, and Marcos Molina in our office will be taking over the responsibilities for the Messenger and for the legislative tracking. Scott, it's been a real privilege working with you. Thanks for the time and the years you've shared with us. I say all this, he's not really going anywhere. He'll still be writing the blog for us. But I also want to take a moment now also to recognize and thank Carol Fricke, who has worked for TCCTA for 37 years. If you've been coming to this conference for very long at all, you know her as the person in charge of our registration area. She kept things moving smoothly there, even through all the chaos of registering so many people in such a short amount of time. But to those of us in the state office, she was the one still point we all orbited around. Carol kept the books for the association and managed the database. When we moved to an online database system, she oversaw that daunting transition and kept everything running seamlessly. Last year, the day before this convention, Carol was taken to the hospital where she was later diagnosed with cancer. And after more testing and treatments, she decided to retire from TCCTA to focus full-time on her battle with cancer. We've been receiving regular updates, and I've spoken with her and her husband John throughout this ordeal. I talked with John last week and told him our prayers are with him and with Carol, and we all hope that she comes through these treatments well, and that she and John and their children Mindy and Kyle have many happy years together. We will be presenting gifts to both Scott and Carol to express our thanks for them, for their service to the association, and to offer them our best wishes. Please join me in recognizing them now. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Now I would like to introduce Terry Michela of Tarrant County College Trinity River, who serves as chair of our nominating committee. She will announce the slate of candidates for state office this year.
Scott, really? That's all I have to say. Thank you, Carol. The nominating committee met last November and selected the following individuals who had submitted their names as candidates for state office. Would you please stand and remain standing as I call your name? For the office of President-elect, Essie Childers, Blinn College. There's Essie. For the office of Vice President, Raja Khoury, Collin College, Spring Creek. Raj. For the office of Secretary, Wayne Langhennig, South Plains College. Over there's Wayne. And for the office of Treasurer, we have a contested race between Liz Ann Baez Aguiar, San Antonio College, and Jenny Lehman, Wharton County Junior College. These are your candidates. Okay, candidates, you get to sit down now. According to the TCCTA bylaws, candidates may also be nominated from the floor during this meeting. If anyone wishes to nominate an individual for state office and has that individual's permission in writing to do so, please stand. Seriously. Seriously, don't spring it on anybody. To do so, please stand and be recognized now. Come on, Scott. Randy Jarvis for Vice President. And I assume we can dispense with the written permission. Okay. Any others? Can't see very well, but you haven't said anything. So that's a long enough pause, right? Okay. There being just the one, the nomination process is closed. I want to thank these individuals for their willingness to serve. I know all of TCCTA thanks you, and I'd like to thank also my colleagues who served on the nominating committee with me, and their names are listed there. Nominating committee, stand up. Are you here? There's Lola. Okay, there were more, but okay. I do hope that everyone will make a point tomorrow to vote. The election booth is right next door in the exhibit hall. It only takes a few minutes. It's an easy process, and it allows everyone to be involved in the leadership of our organization. And thank you for your time. I turn this over to you, Carol, correct? Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. I want to thank the candidates for their willingness to step up and offer their leadership to our profession. Since we do have a nomination from the floor, I'm going to ask if the executive committee and the nominating committee would please meet me just here at the front of the room at the conclusion of this meeting, since we will need to address some matters of business such as reprinting ballots and that type of thing. Does that sound okay? All right. Well, it's commercial time. I want to take just a moment to mention some of the invaluable ways that TCCTA promotes our profession. First, of course, I would like to mention the great teaching roundup that is held every May. Then the Leading from the Middle conference for mid-level administrators held every summer. The fall conference for faculty leaders. And of course, our annual convention. I hope you'll take a few minutes to look through the program at the more than 150 different sessions that will be held over the next day and a half. In particular, if you would like a better understanding of the data that underlies the student success movement, please be sure to attend our professional development seminar tomorrow at 1 o'clock with Dr. Davis Jenkins. His presentation is titled, Start with the End in Mind, Building Guided Pathways to Student Success. Dr. Jenkins is a senior research associate at Columbia University and is recognized nationally as an authority on issues pertaining to student success. Dr. Jenkins, thank you for being with us. In addition to attending Dr. Jenkins' professional development session, you might try something different, like attending a section meeting in a discipline other than your own, or trying the gifts session in the morning, especially if you've never been to that before. I think you would enjoy it. Or if you're a book lover, you might want to join my colleague, Jim McCune, and I on Saturday morning, bright and early, as we talk about books and give you a chance to talk about some of your favorite books. If you'll just take a look at the program and at all the different sessions that we have offered, I'm absolutely positive that you'll find something valuable that you would have missed if you hadn't come to San Antonio this year. All of these opportunities that I've mentioned demonstrate TCCTA's purpose. As it says on our website, our purpose is to connect people to people, institutions, resources, and ideas. We're all aware of the seriousness of the political and economic challenges that face the community colleges of Texas. In TCCTA, we have many ideas on how to address these issues, and therein lies our strength. We grow stronger as we value and understand the abundance of ability, of opinion, of perception that we possess as a whole. We have the ability to represent many different points of view, many philosophies, many approaches to our profession, and all of us are essential to create that whole. A harmonious voice that can be a powerful, prominent voice in Texas education. The 2013-14 TCCTA theme is the power of harmony. I hope this video will explain how this theme applies to TCCTA. In one of my favorite poems, William Wordsworth uses the phrase, "the power of harmony." In scenes like these, it's easy to see the harmony of nature. But how does that phrase, "the power of harmony," apply to human nature, and specifically to TCCTA? Here's one way. Together, we can accomplish what would be impossible for one. Harmony is working together for a common goal, but it's also more complicated. Harmony is a powerful force, a natural force.
Let me begin with what might have occurred to you immediately when you hear that we're talking about synchrony in nature, which is the glorious example of birds that flock together or fish swimming in organized schools. So these are not particularly intelligent creatures, and yet, as we'll see, they exhibit beautiful ballets. This is from a BBC show called Predators, and what we're looking at here are examples of synchrony that have to do with defense. When you're small and vulnerable, like these starlings or like the fish, it helps to swarm to avoid predators, to confuse predators. Let me just be quiet for a second because this is so gorgeous.
Another Romantic era poet, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, seemed to agree with the idea that these scientists are now exploring, that nature is predisposed to harmony.
For a long time, biologists were puzzled by this behavior, wondering how it could be possible. We're so used to choreography giving rise to synchrony. These creatures are not choreographed, they're choreographing themselves.
Harmony doesn't result from everyone being on the same note. Harmony is a variety of consonant notes. The poet Coleridge pictures humans as musical instruments, as harps, surmising, what if all animated nature be but organic harps, diversely framed? Like Coleridge's harps, we come in different shapes, colors, and sizes. But our variety in shape, color, size, gender, age, make up only superficial diversity. Underneath, we find different ideas, different ideals, visions, philosophies, values, personality types. I know that some of you are from small colleges, some from large college districts, some, like me, from in-between sizes. We are from urban areas, the suburbs, and rural areas. We represent many fields of study and disciplines. Some of us are full of fresh ideas. Some of us bring a wealth of experience. Some of us are red in our politics, some blue. Some of us are extroverts who will gather energy from being with colleagues in the formal and informal opportunities to interact here at the convention. We are diverse in countless ways, but all of us are essential to create the whole, a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts. A YouTube video graphically depicts music with different shapes, colors, and sizes representing different instruments, the different voices that together create harmony. Just as different notes blend to produce the powerful effect of harmony, we are here to blend into one harmonious purpose, to make our colleges and our teaching the best it can be. The preamble to the TCCTA Constitution defines our purpose. TCCTA is dedicated to the pursuit of excellence in teaching and the advancement of education in the community, junior, and technical colleges of Texas. The organization takes pride in its preference to address issues and challenges in a collaborative, cooperative, and collegial manner. We grow stronger as we value and understand the abundance of ability, of opinion, of perception we possess as a whole. I'm glad you're here to join us as we make a concerted effort to recognize and value various perspectives, to make TCCTA even more of a place inclusive in every possible way, welcoming and appreciative of the qualities each individual brings to our song. We are TCCTA, and our strength is the diversity, yet the harmony of our members. I want to say a special thank you to Edgar Berrigan, Media Technology Specialist at McLennan Community College, who produced this video. Edgar, would you just stand up for a second? Thank you. I went to him with a few bits and pieces, and he managed to produce this wonderful, coherent whole out of it, and I'm just in amazement that he was able to do that. Thank you so much. Now we come to a real highlight in our program. Every year, the regional president of Phi Theta Kappa addresses our annual convention. It's always such a thrill to hear from these young leaders and share in their enthusiasm. Please welcome this year's Phi Theta Kappa president, Joanna Anderson of Austin Community College.
Thank you. Good evening, faculty, administrators, and guests. I am honored to be here tonight representing Phi Theta Kappa as the Texas Regional President. Gandhi said, "Happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony." What is harmony? Harmony is defined as a consistent, orderly, or pleasing arrangement of parts. Harmony is also defined as any simultaneous combinations of tones, especially when blended into chords pleasing to the ear, a chordal structure as distinguished from melody and rhythm. It is the science of structure, relations, and practical combination of chords. Yes, these are all definitions of harmony, but what is the power of harmony? The power of harmony can be seen in various aspects of life, like harmony within a team, harmony in the classroom, and harmony with oneself. First, I want to talk to you about the power of harmony within a team. Picture harmony within a team like the harmony you can achieve with an instrument. Like a guitar, perhaps. A guitar has 6 strings, and when all strings are tuned right, it has the capability to harmonize beautifully. However, learning how to harmonize with a guitar takes commitment and dedication. And what happens when one or more of these strings on a guitar breaks? There is a discord, and the guitar no longer has the ability to harmonize. I reference a guitar when talking about harmony within a team because in order for a team to have harmony, all members must work together equally. The Texas Regional Officer Team is a prime comparison to the guitar. There are 6 members in our team, and throughout this year, we have learned what the power of harmony is and how to use it for the better. At the beginning of our year, we all had different strings, and we all had to learn how to tune these strengths to work more efficiently as a team rather than 6 individual members. Because of our teamwork and collaboration, we were able to successfully plan and execute 2, going on 3, incredible events for the members of the Texas region of Phi Theta Kappa, not only to attend, but to learn, have opportunities for leadership and personal growth. As a team, we learned what the power of harmony really meant and the amazing outcome it had on each of us, as well as the Texas region. The power of harmony within a team is very similar to the power of harmony within a classroom. Having harmony in the classroom is what helps students like myself take the initiative and have the courage we need to succeed. This happens in many ways, but with passion and consistency are just to name a few. When a teacher has passion for educating students and wanting to see their students succeed, it is evident. According to a Texas study, it was found that a professor's effectiveness is 20 times as likely to boost student performance on tests and as other factors. According to a 2010 ING survey, it was found that 88% of American adults reported having a teacher who had a significant impact on their life. Of those students, 83% said a teacher helped boost their self-esteem and confidence. 75% said a teacher had been a mentor or a role model for them. 79% reported having a teacher who had encouraged them to follow their dreams. And 98% believe that a good teacher can change the course of a student's life. These are the results of a teacher having passion for what he or she does on a daily basis. Consistency also makes a difference. A teacher who is consistent in their curriculum not only tells students that you are dedicated, but shows that how well we do in your classroom is meaningful to you. I began the Associate's Degree of Nursing program at Austin Community College in the fall of 2012. And in my second level, I had a teacher who possessed both passion and consistency and therefore brought harmony into the classroom. At the beginning of the semester, she told our class that if we had dedication, hard work, and compassion, that we already had the qualities that make a great nurse. And that was what matters in the end, not what the grades you make in nursing school. This was the first time I had a teacher tell me that my GPA does not define who I am. Throughout the entire semester, she always ended her PowerPoint lectures with an inspirational quote or a cartoon comic that related to the topic we were learning. She was not just a teacher, she was a servant leader and took the time to build rapport with her students. I guess you could say I would have to include myself in that 98% of students who believe that a good teacher can change the course of a student's life. What I just described to you is an ideal example of the power of harmony. Harmony intensifies the positive bonds between people, focusing energy and releasing power for accomplishment. This can be seen in conventions such as this one. When most successful, it is because a deeper connection and bond was created among teachers and other faculty of the Texas Community College Teachers Association. This is accomplished through a mutual respect by genuinely focusing on the contribution of others and via collaborative decisions for future actions. Whether it is by attending convention, faculty meetings, or in a classroom, our energy skyrockets and our teamwork produces positive results. In essence, the harmonic movement has created a new burst of collective energy, therefore enabling consensus and both collective and individual achievement. Individual achievement is a path to harmony with oneself. This is perhaps the most essential and basic expression of the spirit of life. This path is one that I have taken not once, but many times. As a child growing up in the foster care system, learning to find harmony within myself was a task not always easily attainable. Moving from foster home to foster home and continuously changing schools, I found that there was an imbalance in my life. At these times, I found that my teachers helped me find harmony through collaboration with my education. Through my education, I was able to find a tranquility, and it instilled in me a passion for continuing my education, which has led me to where I am today, and just a few months from obtaining my associate's degree. So, how do you achieve the power of harmony? Well, I can tell you this. You first must have an understanding of who you are and find happiness in your life. From here, the possibilities are endless. To end, I will leave you with a quote from Rabindranath Tagore: "The highest education is that which does not merely give us information, but makes our life in harmony with all existence." Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. Hearing from students like you reminds us of why we do what we do. Thank you. This evening, it is my honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Lisa Eid, Professor of English at Oregon State University. Dr. Eid has been teaching rhetoric and writing at OSU since 1980. Her research interests include rhetorical theory and practice, current composition theory, new media and new literacies, and feminist, cultural, and critical pedagogical studies. Dr. Eid has authored, co-authored, edited, or co-edited 8 books, and her scholarly work has been recognized with awards for outstanding research from the Modern Language Association, the Conference on College Composition and Communication, and the International Writing Center Association. We're grateful to Norton Publishers for sponsoring her appearance here. Please help me welcome Dr. Lisa Eid.
When I told colleagues that I was coming to Texas for this conference, they said, "Well, what's your role at the conference?" And I said, "I am the dreaded after banquet speaker." So I want to assure you that I am aware of my role, that I have a written talk. I will not be ad-libbing, and I have tried to keep things as succinct as I could. It's a real honor for me to be at this 2014 Texas Community College Teachers Association Conference. I'd like to thank Association President Carol Lowe for the invitation to speak at tonight's banquet, and TCCTA staff members Richard Moore and Carol Hawkins, who have provided truly incredible backup and assistance. And I would also like to thank WW Norton as well for supporting my participation at the conference. It's really great to be in San Antonio, cold as it is, a progressive and vibrant city that is thriving, and thanks in good part, though, keeping with our theme of collaboration, not solely responsible for his leadership. And it's even better to have the opportunity to learn from the diverse group of community college teachers and administrators who comprise the TCCTA. I will admit that the thought of addressing such a diverse group was initially somewhat daunting. As you know, The range of areas represented in section meetings for this conference is really impressive. From agriculture, biology, and business administration, to hospitality and nursing education, to writing, reading, accounting, forensic science, and office and welding technology. This diversity is real, but it is a diversity that grows out of and reflects shared commitments to your students, your communities, and to education in general. In my experience, these commitments are shared by dedicated community college faculty across the country who, like you, play such an essential role in ensuring that all students have access to higher education and succeed in higher education when they come to our colleges. But as I learned in preparing for my talk today, there are some unique opportunities and challenges facing community college teachers in Texas today. Perhaps I shouldn't have been surprised that a state as big as Texas should have Texas-sized ambitions for its higher education system. I am thinking here of initiatives like the ACGM Learning Outcomes Project, undertaken by the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, which, as you know, is working with 2- and 4-year faculty across the state to develop student learning outcomes for some of the most frequently taught courses. This project reflects the growing national emphasis on student success, and my guess is that it will serve as a model project in that regard. There's a lot at stake in the ACGM project, from very significant investments of time on the part of faculty members and other stakeholders to bottom-line budget consequences that are real. I'm sure if we had time, you could fill me in on many other important collaborations with which you and your colleagues are engaged. After all, the opportunities for powerful and productive collaborations in colleges and universities are many. They include collaborations between faculty, within and across units, between faculty and administrators, between faculty and students, between students in various educational settings and contexts, and between community colleges and the diverse communities they serve. These collaborations represent exciting opportunities, but as you are no doubt aware, collaborative endeavors pose challenges as well. In the time remaining, I hope to suggest some ways that those engaged in collaborative projects can maximize positive outcomes and minimize difficulties and challenges. Perhaps my most important suggestion will first strike you as hopelessly general or hopelessly commonsensical. I don't mind the common sense charge, as I have a healthy respect for common sense. And my suggestion, it is that as much as we might yearn for them, there are no one-size-fits-all guidelines that can guarantee successful collaborations. In my talk today, I'll be emphasizing the situated nature of collaboration and the value of a flexible, rhetorically sensitive approach, one that asks us both to interrogate our own experiences and to try as much as possible to inhabit the experiences of those with whom we wish to collaborate. Why am I calling attention to the importance of interrogating our own experiences? Perhaps an example will help clarify my point. All of us in this room are educators or in some way support higher education. As I have mentioned it, whether we like it or not, collaboration is a fact of life for us. We have department meetings, college meetings, reports to write collaboratively, pedagogical innovations, such as the implementation of the new ACGM learning outcomes that require collaboration. We are involved in professional associations, such as the TCCTA. As educators, we should have numerous strengths to bring to the collaborative table, and we do. But our background as successful students and educators might bring some potential limitations as well. Consider this. Many who choose to become educators do so because we have excelled as individuals in the educational system. As students, we were rewarded primarily for solo, accomplishments. After all, we get individual grades for individual courses. I don't know about you, but as a student, I have to admit that I dreaded group work. I hated the loss of control that it entailed, and sometimes I found myself working with peers whose commitment to their education and their grade wasn't as strong as mine, and I had a really serious commitment to my grade as a student. Once we become teachers, most of us liked the degree of freedom in our classrooms that teaching affords. And as teachers, we are evaluated primarily on our individual accomplishments. So there's a potential tension between the strengths we develop to succeed as students and teachers and the skills we need to develop to collaborate successfully. There's also a potential tension between the way our work as teachers is valued and rewarded and the important role that collaboration needs to play in our careers and on our campuses. Mismatches like this can cause educators to avoid collaborative work, to resist it where it can't be avoided, or if we do willingly engage in collaborative activities, and I think of the really important work that so many people involved with this organization are voluntarily doing, to find our work undervalued and inadequately rewarded. My co-author, Andrea Lunsford, and I have experienced the devaluing of collaborative work, in our case, collaborative writing, firsthand, and it was this experience that catalyzed 30-plus years of research on collaborative writing in particular and on collaboration in general. Here's our story. Longtime friends in the early 1980s, Andrea and I, who at the time were both untenured assistant professors, decided really almost by chance to collaborate on an essay for a collection honoring a beloved professor. We did so, and we were surprised by how much we enjoyed the process of writing together. We enjoyed it so much, in fact, that we continued to write together. We found doing so productive and stimulating. We especially appreciated the fact that our collaboration emboldened us to take on projects that we might have been unwilling or unable to tackle on our own. Our colleagues, however, felt differently. The professor in whose honor we wrote our first co-authored essay, for instance, expressed astonishment and dismay at our desire to write together, insisting that we would never get tenure if we continued to do so, even though we were careful to publish individually as well as collaboratively. And his was just the first in a long chorus of concerns, one that reflects the deep resistance to and devaluing of co-authorship in the humanities. And I'm going to be talking about Andrea's and my experience as a kind of case study. I recognize that only some people in this room are involved with the humanities, but I will be making connections between this and larger situations later in my talk. Andrea and I are, I guess, stubborn. The more our commitment to writing together grew, the more we wanted to challenge the academic norms that were constraining us. And believe me, being told that you will never get tenure feels like a pretty big constraint if you're an academic. The more we thought about it, the more it seemed to Andrea and me that this resistance to collaborative writing in the humanities was unproductive, especially since it influenced not only professional but also pedagogical practices. After all, don't people in a whole range of professions write together routinely? Shouldn't writing teachers be preparing students for the collaborative work that they will undoubtedly undertake on the job? Increasingly, we felt that there should be a place for collaborative writing assignments in our writing classes, particularly first-year writing classes, and there was not. So what began by accident and continued because we enjoyed writing together and found it productive turned into a major research interest. In 1984, Andrea and I applied for and received a substantial FIPSI-funded grant and began a multi-stage, multi-year study of collaborative writers at work in business, industry, and the professions. We did so by exploring the collaborative writing activities of members of 7 professional associations: the American Institute of Chemists, the American Consulting Engineers Council, the American Psychological Association, the Professional Services Management Association, and the Society for Technical Communication. For the first stage of our research, we surveyed 200 randomly selected members of each association. Our goal in this initial survey was to determine the frequency, types, and occasions of collaborative writing among members. And yes, we found that members of these associations did regularly collaborate in writing with others. 87% of our respondents indicated that they sometimes write as members of a team or group. Of this same group of respondents, 58% indicated that they found writing with others productive or very productive, and only 4% indicated that it was not at all productive. 98% of the respondents to our first survey, by the way, rated writing as important or very important to the successful execution of their jobs. After analyzing the results of this first survey, we developed a second questionnaire, a longer, more open-ended instrument to be completed by 12 members of each of the 7 professional associations. The selection of respondents was not random but intentional, in that we chose members whose first survey results indicated that they found writing collaboratively with others largely to be a positive experience. In the third stage of our research, we held on-site interviews with at least one member of each professional association who responded to the second questionnaire. These interviews ranged in length from several hours to several days, and they happened at sites throughout the United States. And as you can imagine, these interviews proved invaluable in helping us to gain an in-depth understanding of collaboration in action. Andrea and I published the results of our study in our 1990 Singular Text Plural Authors Perspectives on Collaborative Writing. Since that time, many scholars have studied collaborative writing, especially in the world of work. In that context, our research has made a difference, but it has been harder to affect change in other arenas. When Andrea and her co-author Karen Lunsford, for instance, conducted a 2008 study of errors in a nationwide sample of student writing, they could not identify a single essay that had been written collaboratively. So the norms against major collaborative writing assignments in required first-year writing courses still remain very strong. Nor has resistance to co-authorship in the humanities lessened. The fact is that if you are an English professor at a research university, the single-authored monograph remains a gold standard and a minimum requirement for promotion and tenure. Some of you in the audience may be scratching your heads right now. You always thought those English teachers were a little weird, and this might be confirmation of that. And certainly, Andrea's and my experience is a reminder that the academy can be a pretty strange place, especially if that place is a research university. Andrea and I did a fair amount of head-scratching ourselves as we gradually realized that something deeper and more ideologically grounded than a lack of data on collaboration in the world of work was playing a key role in resistance to co-authorship in the humanities. So a couple of years into our research, we revised our agenda and undertook an extensive historical and theoretical study of the development of intellectual property, authorship, and copyright in the West. Time constraints prevent me from discussing this complex subject in detail tonight, but I can tell you that Andrea and I learned that ideologically driven forces came together over a period of several centuries to valorize the individual subject and author, as well as intellectual property and copyright. And of course, copyright is certainly an issue for us in the 20th century, and intellectual property. Central to the process were assumptions about how different kinds of writing are valued and identified or not with the individuals who wrote them. To concretize this issue, you might think of texts as existing on a continuum. On one end of the continuum, the end most highly valued by our culture, authors are named, and especially in literary works, those authors most often are single individuals. Think Leo Tolstoy, Virginia Woolf, Jonathan Franzen, Toni Morrison. At the other end of the continuum, the one where a huge amount of the day-to-day work of our culture gets done, are texts that most often cite no authors, technical manuals, for instance, although they were certainly written by one, or in many cases, more than one person's. And in between are texts like the report that established the ACGM project, whose authors are named in the document, but their agency is minimized, so that those quoting the report are likely to say the report suggests rather than the authors of this report suggest. You might think of my comments up to now, as I said, as representing a kind of case study of how assumptions about authorship and intellectual property have informed one domain, the humanities, at a very deep level. I hope that you already see that while the situation in your disciplinary or professional area may be different, and personally, let's hope that it is, it cannot be free of similarly ideologically grounded assumption and practices, if only because collaboration is such an exquisitely human activity. Your challenges may be different from Andrea's and mine. Perhaps you are thinking about how best to implement the new ACGM learning outcomes in a class that you've taught for a long time. Part of you may want to resist taking these outcomes seriously. After all, you've taught this class for quite a while now, and you feel you have an insider's understanding of your course and your students. And yet, you also very much want to participate in good faith in what for Texas is a really major and significant curricular and pedagogical activity. This is a specific and concrete situation, one that requires us to inquire into our own personal and professional responsibilities. In a situation like this, guidelines about collaboration can only go so far. In Singular Text Plural Authors, Andrea and I do summarize at a general level what we learned about effective collaboration in the world of work. Here's what Andrea and I describe as an emerging profile of effective collaborative writers at the time that we conducted our study. They are flexible, respectful of others, attentive and analytical listeners, able to speak and write clearly and articulately, dependable and able to meet deadlines, able to designate and share responsibility, to lead and to follow, open to criticism but confident in their own abilities, ready to engage creative conflict. 24 years later, I would not disagree with the summary, but when I think about how specific, concrete, and situated virtually every collaboration is, it's easy to recognize what is missing from this profile. It doesn't consider the ways that our own experiences as students and teachers who excelled as individuals might influence our attitude toward and involvement with collaboration. It doesn't address issues of race, class, and gender that we know are so important in any situation where humans work together, issues that became quite clear in our interviews. And it doesn't consider the way that disciplinary and professional norms can exert profound influences on our assumptions and practices. So as I move toward a conclusion, I'd like you to think about your own individual's experiences as a student and teacher. How have they influenced your approach toward collaboration? How conscious of and responsive to issues of race, gender, and class are you when you work with others? I would also like to invite you to think about your own disciplinary or professional field. What assumptions about collaboration function as normative? They are so commonsensical that we don't really examine them. We just take them for granted. how might you work to challenge these assumptions and practices if you disagree with them? While the humanities still privilege individual authorship, for instance, a number of professional associations have written protections for those who write collaboratively into important P&T documents. For some of you, I would expect that collaboration is built into your work and is a positive and rewarded norm. Others of you may be in fields where hierarchies of value favor individual rather than group achievement. Or you may regularly engage in collaborative activities, value them, find them valued by colleagues, and nevertheless wish that these activities could be more productive, effective, satisfying, and efficient. Productive, effective, satisfying, and efficient, these are the primary descriptors that Andrea and I have used for decades now to describe collaborations that are working well. Think about it. I'm sure we can all remember collaborations that were productive in that they got the job done, but we might not have experienced as effective, satisfying, or efficient. The report got written and the project completed, but pretty much everybody involved was unhappy with the compromises they had to make and experienced the process as neither satisfying nor efficient. Of course, thankfully, the opposite can occur and does occur. There are certainly many successful collaborations where those involved take pride in the product, value the process that led up to it, and feel that they have personally benefited from this process. Just as we encourage our students to reflect critically on their experience, to assess their strengths and limitations and set goals for themselves, we can also benefit from similar self-critique. A heavy dose of empathy for others, a willingness to stand in their shoes, can also go really far in encouraging successful collaborations. I'd like to make two final points. One point relates to the reference to disharmony in the title of my talk today. Disharmony in collaboration can be negative and frustrating, especially when it's the result of problems with interpersonal or group dynamics. And we've all seen this and we've all experienced this. But another kind of disharmony, the kind of disharmony that is a result of substantive conflict, where group members hash out ideas and priorities, is one of the primary benefits of collaboration. Thanks to this kind of substantive disharmony, group members are able to reach a goal and produce a product that they literally could not have achieved on their own, and they recognize that and value that. They have learned from the process, and any frustrations they might have experienced along the way are viewed in that perspective. I mention the latter, frustrations, because one reality of collaboration that I'd really encourage you to try to keep focused on as you're collaborating with others is that collaboration externalizes the processes that lead up to the successful completion of a project. If we are writing a report or an article on our own, we tend to take responsibility for our own process and to minimize or forget difficulties. Yes, I am finishing this report on 1 a.m. at Monday morning, we might say to ourselves, because I just had to watch both Downton Abbey and Sherlock on Sunday night. But that was my choice, and I take responsibility for that. When we work with others, that we are aware that we are losing at least some control of the process and can experience difficulties and challenges much more viscerally, and they tend to stay more at the forefront of our consciousness. Keep this in mind when you find yourself fretting because a colleague won't let go of a point that seems to you either obvious or unimportant. The colleague might be seeing something that you don't see, and if you let the discussion play out, you may ultimately find out there was an important point after all. You just needed their help in seeing it. Remember also that when a process is externalized, you can get helpful information that can guide future endeavors. And this is true for us as teachers as well as it is for us as colleagues collaborating in a variety of ways. A heated departmental discussion of how you will collaboratively agree to implement new ACGM learning outcomes for a particular course may have its moments of frustration. But if your collaboration is working well, the result will be worth the effort, and you will also have a fuller, more nuanced understanding of your colleagues' goals as teachers, both in general and for this particular course. I'd like to leave you today with this thought. Collaboration takes time, and it can have its challenges and frustrations, but it is, I would argue, a powerful and compelling means for exploring new ideas and effecting significant change. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Eade, for sharing your insights with us tonight. We appreciate it very much. Before we adjourn, and on a more somber note, please refer to pages 39 and 40 of your conference program. Every year we pause to remember colleagues who have passed away since last we met. In addition, I've received word that last week former TCCTA president Doris Burbank passed away. Please join me for a moment of silence as we honor the memory of those listed, as we honor their contributions that they have made to their students and to our profession. Thank you all for being with us this evening for our opening general session. I hope you all enjoy the rest of the convention, and there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.